So I want to start this video off by just asking a question. And that question is, if you are a Kamala Harris supporter, I would love to know why. So now if you're not the type of person to dip out of a YouTube video in like the first 2 minutes, then I greatly appreciate you. But let me just start off by saying that I am not the most political person. I have friends that follow this whole political thing a lot. And, I'm 44 years old. I'm a very tiny YouTuber. Currently, I have about 137 subscribers, which I appreciate each and every one of you. But I'm not somebody that's making a ton of money. And I really haven't, I haven't even voted for anybody in my entire life. But I can't act like the things I've been seeing from both Harris and Trump, I can't help but not come to an opinion. And so that's why I would love for people that do intend on voting for cackling Kamala, I would love to know why. Because it might be possible that I'm very ignorant to a lot of things. There might be some things about her policy that I'm quite frankly unaware of. So the thing that I hear most that's being said about like say Trump and whatnot is that he's like a demon, he's this, he's that. And I think people tend to forget that, the man did serve a term already. And so I think just logically, if he was all of these things, if he's the threat to democracy and he's, the devil incarnate, I think the 4 years that we had Trump already, I think the country would have been in flames, right? I mean, that's kind of like, I'm just using just some logic here. So I find it interesting that people on the extreme left want to push the narrative in saying that Trump is this and Trump is that. Now let me be clear. Nobody is perfect. I'm not saying that Trump is the model citizen or anything. But it's just funny, like, just as somebody who's not super into politics and somebody who, I'm just an average guy. I see what I see on TV, and I have concerns, because looking at the current state of affairs in the country right now, things are super expensive. A lot of my friends that do drive, they complain about gas prices and stuff like that. You have like illegals every which way, and in a lot of cases, they're being treated far better than the actual citizens that's actually in this country. I mean, I've seen articles where they're getting like $1,000 on debit cards. They're given the right to vote. And there's a lot of conspiracy surrounding that. And I do believe that one of the main reasons why they're being brought in here is so that they can be converted into Democratic voters. That's a very popular theory. And I have to admit, I kind of support it. But, I just think back to, what was it? When was Trump in? 2016. So back to 2016 during Trump's presidency, the only thing that really stood out to me was the whole COVID thing. That was the only thing that really stood out. Like, I'm not saying that the country was perfect, right? I'm not saying that everything was sunshine and rainbows. But there was no crazy talk about a migrant, anything. Prices weren't out of control. Mortgage mortgages weren't out of control. The country was in a much better position back then than what it is now. So if I'm just to use common sense, and I'm not trying to pick sides here, but if I'm just using common sense, the issues that are prevalent today, right now, those issues were not a thing back when he was in office. That's just the facts. And I'm 44, like I said, so my eyes was open during that presidency that Trump was in. And like I said, I just want to say, it's not that, I'm not saying he was perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But the issues that are going on today were not a thing back then. And that's just a fact. So I'm just really legitimately curious as to, if you weigh in all of the evidence, if you weigh in the facts, I would love to understand how someone would still willingly and consciously vote for a woman that has a record of prosecuting black men for the smallest offenses in California, and then laughs about it in a later interview when asked, did she ever smoke weed, or, all of the flip-flopping that she's been doing regarding the border, regarding fracking, which I think is like basically drilling for oil and stuff like that, because there's states, like I said, I'm in New York, I'm in Brooklyn, I'm walking through Brooklyn right now, but there are states that really depend on, fracking and stuff like that for their whole economy. So I just find it very interesting how someone can reverse course, but the media machine does not call her out on it. I mean, all of this, it sounds bad, I guess, but it's just what I've been seeing on television. It's what I've seen in articles, because if we're going to believe that, again, Trump is like the devil incarnate and he's a quote-unquote Hitler or whatever case is, but again, when he was in office, America was not involved in any. If they were involved in some kind of conflict, I didn't know about it. But Ukraine wasn't a thing. Iran wasn't close to getting some sort of nuclear weapon. The Middle East wasn't really, popping off like that. And shortly after Biden and Kamala gets in, the country basically goes to hell. So I'm trying to understand, am I missing something? Like, am I really missing something here? Because maybe I'm the ignorant one, and that's possible. Maybe because being ignorant is not being stupid. Being ignorant just means you just have a lack of awareness or lack of information. But I just really am curious, because I try to make sense of what's going on in the country, and it just doesn't add up. Now, if, let's say, hypothetically speaking, Trump never served office, let's say if he never won, then I can kind of understand people's concern. It's sort of like he's an untested fighter or whatever. He's never been in office, so we don't know. But he's already been in office, so we do know what an America is like with him at the helm. You know what I'm saying? So now, one other thing I like to point out is all of these changes that Kamala Harris and her team want to execute, so to speak. Isn't she in the White House now? Isn't she in right now? Because I think last I checked, I think she actually is. So, and she's been there for almost the entire term, right? It's been about 3.5 years. You might as well say 4 years at this point. This is the way I look at this. a lot of the things that she says that she wants to do, what is stopping her from doing it right now? Now, I understand some of you might actually say, well, she's the vice president. She's not the president, so she can't do that. But I beg to differ, because being vice president, you do have you do have influence, and also you are the vice president, but you're also the Democratic nominee. So, well, actually, wait a second. She wasn't the Democratic nominee. She was actually just handpicked because they pushed Biden out. So basically, they got her to, to kind of take up the. It's almost like they subbed out Biden and they just swapped her in. So that's basically what happened there. So she didn't really win a primary. So that's a fact. But anyway, I digress. So I would say, since the Democrats want to keep Trump out of office so bad, and I'm just, that's basically what it is, I would challenge, and I would think a good strategy would be, if some of the things that she wants to do, wouldn't it make more sense to kind of like do a few of these things and say, hey, you know what? We just made an executive order to pass some of Kamala Harris's plans, and this is the start, and this is what you could look forward to more of if you elect Kamala Harris as president. I think that would make more sense. But it's like you're saying, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You're already currently the sitting vice president, and we all know that Biden is not running anything. The man probably don't even remember what he had for dinner last night. So we already know Biden is not in control of the country. So I would challenge and argue that the decisions of the country are coming from her and the other people that's in her camp, that's in the administration. That's my challenge. That's what I believe. So it would make more sense to me if she were to do a few of the things that she says that she's going to do. So it's almost like a good faith kind of thing. Now, obviously, Trump can't do anything because he's not in office at all, but she is. Now, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it definitely makes sense to me, because then she can argue and say, we just put together this bill just now, and if you elect me, then I can do more. But it's like, you're not doing anything. So I just don't think that's a good look, in my opinion. You may disagree, but that's just how I see it. Now that brings me to this other situation in regard to all of their interviews. Every time I see a Trump interview, he's always talking about how he's going to make the country better. He's going to do this. He's going to do that, and he even goes into detail on some of the ways he's going to do it. When I hear Kamala talk, when she's not laughing and cackling, most of the time I've heard her talk about groceries, which I do agree groceries are expensive. They're always, the Democrats are always talking about abortion, and that seems to be their only real talking point. And then she's just talking about Trump. I mean, one of the funniest interviews I've seen. I think it was a CNN interview, maybe about a month or two ago. In fact, I think it was the interview that she had with Tim Walz, and they asked her on day one, what do you intend to do as president? And she had, now, based on what my limited experience of politics, I feel that is one of the most easiest and most anticipated questions you can get is, what are you going to do as president for your day one? And And if you were to sift through the word salad that she gave, for some reason, she invoked Trump. Now, at this point, if we're talking hypothetical, if you are the president of the United States, then why are you bringing up the opponent that you beat? You are in the driver's seat. So it wouldn't matter what Trump has to say. I just found that to be very telling. And then even most recent, there was another interview she had where she gave an answer to something. It was very controversial. The network, I forgot what the network was, but I'm pretty sure you can look on the news, it's everywhere. The network completely altered her answer to make it sound like she's more intelligent than what she displayed in that interview. Like, I honestly, like I said, I would really love to know why you are voting for this woman, if you are. And honestly, to make it even better, tell me why you're voting for Trump as well. Because like I said, I haven't voted for anybody in the 44 years that I've been, alive. But look, if I'm going to vote for anybody, it's going to be Trump. Easy. I'm not afraid or ashamed to say it. And if a few of my $137 subscribers opt to leave because of that, then that's fine. It just kind of reveals to me who you are. But if I don't see nobody leave or unsubscribe from me, I'm greatly appreciative. And but like I said, I just want to really overstate that no candidate is perfect. You're always going to take the good with the bad with everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. That's just how it goes. But based on everything I've heard so far from both people, especially with most recently, Trump was on Joe Rogan's podcast, which is, I think, the #1 podcast in the world. I love listening to Joe Rogan. A 3-hour conversation. I've only listened to 1 hour so far. I'm going to listen to it as it goes on. But I just I cannot knowingly vote for someone who, when pressed to give answers on how you're going to better the country, you say, I'm not going to do anything different than Biden. But then on the flip side, you're saying this will not be a continuation of Biden's administration. Which is it? It's a flip-flop. Then you're saying, oh, I'm not going to frack. Now you are. Like, there's just too much inconsistencies. And she's cackling all the time like an idiot. Then on the other side, we have Trump, who has, he speaks, he has his issues. But a lot of times when he's giving an answer, at least he's actually detailing some kind of plan, some kind of intent. You don't see him, going overboard on Harris. I mean, he'll say his few things like I've been saying, but like the conversation is not dominated on her. He's talking about the border. He's talking about, dealing with Russia and all these other places. So I would love to know why, if you are voting for this woman, because maybe I'm missing something. Anyway, like, comment, share, subscribe, and because I'm very small in the YouTube space, but help a brother out, and definitely leave me those comments.